today's topic is concept of service. The basic tenet of Vedanta is the divinity of human soul and unity of existence. Sarvam khalu idam brahma. How to make it practical? Everything that we see is God. That is the basic idea of Vedanta. But how to make that practical? How to feel that everything that I see is God? It is possible by synthesizing service and spirituality. The path of work for the welfare of world in a selfless manner is an excellent form of worship of the Supreme. This selfless work for the good of others is service or seva in Sanskrit. The Gita, in the 18th chapter, we find that there was a traditional idea that to realize God, to attain God, one should give up everything. Everything that one possesses, all your duties, all your responsibilities, all your service even, should be given up. But Krishna said, no, you should not give up yajna, dana and karma, yajna, dana and tapa. The action, the work of yajna or sacrifice or service, the charity and austerity should not be given up. They should be retained. Why? Yajno danam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam. These three things really purify our soul. This service, the charity and austerity. Self-control, helping others and being selfless. These things are very important as a spiritual practice. These are very important to realize God. Not that you give up everything and go and meditate for all the time. That is not for everyone. Very few might be there, but for them also it has to be preceded with yajna, dana, tapa, karma. When mind becomes fully separate from all dross, all impurities, then only that person is fit to meditate on that supreme, transcendental being, formless, qualityless, which is called Brahman. Before that, before one can get absorbed in that, one has to purify the mind, and for the purification of mind, yajna, dana and tapa, the sacrifice or service, the charity and austerity are very important. Krishna declared at the end of the Gita, 18th chapter, verse 5. The practice of yajna or sacrifice or service and charity and austerity should not be abandoned, for this verily purify the heart of the wise. Buddha, after he realized nirvana, so some inner voice, some Mara said, you don't need to explain this thing or try to preach this thing, that supreme beatitude, how people will get to the people. They won't understand you. You have attained, fine. Be satisfied yourself. Why you have to talk about how can one get that supreme peace in life? People here just whirl around. And Gita also said that Ishvara sarva bhutana brahmayanti. Means the whole world is moves like put on the machine. That's how the world is. So why you have to preach to the human being a way out of suffering, out of difficulties, and a way to blissfulness? Buddha said, no, there will be people who will understand and practice it, and I want to take the humanity there. And he said, I will work bahujana hitaya, bahujana sukhaya. My motto will be for the welfare of many, for the happiness of many. I will go on working for that. He preached, and Buddhism spread. And his main teaching was work incessantly and with an attitude of service, attitude of helping others. Don't be selfish. Then only you can attain that highest nirvana through a proper meditation. Right meditation will come from right livelihood and right exercise. That exercise is how one should live in the life. And Buddha's whole life was a life of service. All the time he was with the people, moved from one place to other, and during hardships he took, and he was always teaching the people all good things, how one could practice and attain that supreme bliss in life through the practice of, through the work of service to others. And that will lead to the right meditation. That was his preaching. There was a lot of opposition because he preached a very new way. The Swami Vivekananda said Buddha was a rebellious child of Hinduism. He negated the Hindu scripture. He didn't accept the Hindu way of ritualistic worship. He totally said the new thing, but it was all philosophy in practice. It was not dry philosophy. And he said, you have to work out and transform your inner self to achieve the highest realization. It will not be attained by just performing external action. So that was the teaching of Buddha, and it is basically a teaching of service for the humanity. When the mind becomes pure, that pure mind will become fit for having right kind of meditation. Sri Ramakrishna was once explaining the tenets of Vaishnavism. The Vaishnava scriptures say that how a man should live in life should have liking or love for the name of God, spiritual practice. Name ruchi, love for the name of God. Then jive daya, compassion to other beings, to compassion to all living beings. And Vaishnava Seva, service to the devotees of God. If you can do that, you are living a spiritual life. Repeat the name of God with love. And try to generate love for the name of God. Name ruchi. There should be liking, there should be attraction in the name of God. As we miss food when we have not eaten for a long time, similarly, if we have not repeated the name of God, there should be a lack of hunger. Oh, I missed something. So, by having the love for God's name, that sort will come. And when you find devotees of God, try to serve them. So that will make yourself good. Your impurities will go. That is very important. And in the Vaishnava scripture, Jiveda, be compassionate to all beings, not only to the devotees of God. Be compassionate. So when Sri Ramakrishna heard this, he was speaking himself, he was explaining one after another. But when the time came when he had to explain compassion to others, he said, who are you to show compassion? He became in another high mood, and he said, who are you to show compassion? No, it cannot be. Not compassion for others, but rather the service of humans, recognizing them to be the veritable manifestation of God. Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. Know the human beings to be veritable manifestation of God and worship them through service. That's Sri Ramakrishna said. There were many people who were there. They heard this as they heard other things of Sri Ramakrishna. Swami Vivekananda came out after the talk and he said, I have heard something marvelous today. What was marvelous? He was explaining. Swami Vivekananda could grasp the whole depth of Sri Ramakrishna, this teaching, service of man as God. And he said, if I find date, God gives me a chance, I will proclaim this to the whole world. That time itself, you see, Swami Vivekananda had not become sannyasin, he had not thought of renouncing, he might have thought, but he had not renounced the world, he was still serving Sri Ramakrishna, and he said, if God gives me a chance, I will proclaim this message to the whole world. Service of man as God. Worship of God in human beings as through the service of human beings. That is so great. Service of human being is a worship of God. It comes from Sri Ramakrishna's teaching when he was in high spiritual mood. And Swamiji's life after that, after renunciation, became totally dedicated to the service of human beings. And he took it as worship of God, and he taught others to worship God in human beings. And that is what he said is the practical Vedanta. That alone is the way to find God for most of us. So, and that is the best way, he says, that is the best way to find God. Swami Vivekananda said, if you want any good to come, worship the living God, the man God, every being that wears a human form. Worship God in its universal as well as individual aspect. And universal aspect of God means this world, which is most tangible, which is immediate, which is closest to us. That is the universal aspect of God. God is universe. God is beyond this known universe, beyond unknown universe, beyond the universe that is being exploring. That people are not talking of not universe, they are talking of multiverse. But God is all this and beyond. He is transcendent and He is immanent. But how to worship this universe? You don't have to worship Mars and other galaxies. Worship the people around you. Try to be of good to the world. That itself is the worship of the universal form of God. And what is worshipping means? And worshipping it means serving it. Worship of universal form of God is serving the immediate, who is the human being before us. And what is the individual aspect of God? Individual aspect is the individual human being. If we can serve him or her at veritable residence of divinity within, that will be worship of God. That is one attitude. That is called the path of service. This is the concept of service that Vedanta, Swami Vivekananda got through Sri Ramakrishna, and Sri Ramakrishna got through his understanding of Vedanta, real Vedanta. Sarvam khalu idam Brahman, people have been reciting ages after ages, but where the practice done? Swami Vivekananda, after he traveled whole of India for many years, he found that how people are suffering, and the society, the religious person, nobody has taken care of the people who are suffering so much and worshipping God in the temple, building huge temples, spending a lot of money, doing a lot of prayer. And what about this type of worship of God in the suffering humanity? People are suffering, God, and he said to people, the whole people in front of you, the living God is suffering, and you can sleep at night? How can you sleep when you find so many people, the God in human form, are suffering? And what happened to him? He himself a lot of praise he got after Parliament of Religions first meeting on 11th September. Everybody accepted him. The whole America was said that he was the best speaker. He became the celebrity overnight. And at night he goes and he cannot sleep. Not because of elation, but because of sadness. He cried whole night. He didn't touch the bed. He just lay on the floor and wept whole night, thinking of the poor people of India. Poor people of the whole world was his God. He said, I am poor, I love poor, I worship poor. That was Sri Rama, Swami Vivekananda's attitude and his feeling. Now so the service is essential for spiritual progress. How can we serve? What we need to serve? What attitude we need to serve? First, the attitude, the service as spiritual practice requires an attitude or a desire to act. It presupposes action. You have to be active. You cannot be tamasic, lazy, and you want to practice attitude of service. You have to be up and doing. That is very important. And action itself is what type of action we do. Action itself is not important what type of action you do. What attitude you do for that action is important. Action itself is, they say, neither good nor bad. It is neutral. It is the attitude of the person who performs action that makes action good or bad. Any action can be good, any action can be bad, with what attitude you do the action. If it is selfish, egoistic, then it is a bad action. Then you are doing for your own personal self-interest. That will be a bad action. If any action is done for the good of others, it is a good action. Often, this selfish action, which pampers the ego and very egocentric, it only makes a human being who does be so selfish to boost its ego and then gets bound in the darkness of the egocentricity. And he cannot come out of the prison of egocentricity. So that self-centeredness, selfishness makes bad action. So action is the first condition and is the service. Now let us see what there should be the right attitude of the action. So what is the right attitude? Right attitude is selflessness for the good of others, with the concern for others. Whatever we do for the action of others. It's such a practical Vedanta, practical spirituality that whatever you perform can become a service. What was a selfish action, binding one, that can become a thing which can free ourselves. What was the cause of delusion? It will become a cause of knowledge. How is that? When we work, with what attitude? Someone comes, I'm working in a bank, and someone comes to me, suppose I'm a tailor. So, if I think, a lot of work to be done, and this person goes, how many hours it is still left, then it becomes selfish, when I'll finish the work and go. But we can change that attitude and say, person coming, I am here to serve this person, and in fact God is this person, and you work with all sincerity, try to serve him, whatever the problems he has, and you feel happy that you could do something good to that person. So if that attitude with things is done, it becomes service. The same thing one person is doing, but that same thing can be a service, and same thing can be a selfish action. The same thing the person is doing. It depends totally on the attitude. Selfless service is spiritualized action. The action which makes us spiritual, which makes us progress in spirituality, which becomes spiritual practice. That is the selfless action. Always thinking about others, having concern for others, how that person can be made happy in every act. That's what Swami Vivekananda said. In every move, one should be aware of the divinity of the soul and how to manifest that divinity in every movement of life. That is my goal, he said, to preach unto mankind. Divinity of soul, their soul, and how to manifest that divinity in every movement of their life. That was his life's, promise, or life's intention. Now, this service thing should have another quality called love. If you don't love another person, you cannot serve him. There has to be an attitude, iota of love when you deal with others. There should be a feeling of a fellow feeling. And when it matures, feeling of my own person. So without that attitude, service is not possible. So love is very integral part of selfless action. And that love comes from the idea of unity of souls. That I, standing on this side of the table, and the person, the client comes, which on another side of the table, are basically not separate. We all are one. All souls are one. So in serving others, in helping others, in having feeling for that person, I have the feeling for myself. In trying to do good to others, in fact, I am doing good to myself. This often we feel by action. When you utter some nice words and make some person happy, you feel so much inner joy in yourself. How does that happen? The person whom you are talking or trying to do some service is basically, essentially inseparable from yourself. He is your own self in another form. Because it is one soul, that Atman, that appears as many. So when we injure others, we injure ourselves. When we help others, we help ourselves. It is very much experienced by every one of us. Now this idea of divinity of soul, when we have that, when we say, I want to make that person happy, so it's on the social level. I am making that person happy, he is good, I am happy. But how to make this social aspect into deep spiritual, deep worship? That worship will come from the idea of divinity of soul. Whom am I serving? It's just not making other person happy, but I am serving the soul that is present in that person. There is divinity inherent in the soul of the person in front of me. When we have that attitude, our love for human being, our love for animals, our love for nature, when we try to perceive the inner lying soul, it becomes a definite worship of the Supreme Being. To have that type of attitude, we need endurance. When we go for serving others, it's not easy. There are so many obstacles in good things. Shreyangshi bahu vignani, Sanskrit says. There are many obstacles in good work. So we need to have a lot of endurance. I shall overcome that. There will be obstacles, there will be difficulties. And enduring and having the firm conviction that power of goodness is stronger than the power of evil that obstructs your goodness. So you will overcome that. So that is also a very important thing. When one practices service, trying to do good to others, the main difficulty comes that somehow pride sprouts up without even our knowing. So we start feeling I am something that something great, that I am working for others. People are so selfish. I am very unselfish. That pride has to be always curbed and be alert that whether I am being proud of that, where I am being egotistic because I am doing something good. So that has to be always kept in mind. The absence of pride is essential to have the right kind of service. Then with this practice, what will happen is we will be totally free from ego or I-ness. That is the goal. But what will happen first is there will be the transformation of ego. That unripe ego will be transformed into ripe ego. That's what Sri Ramakrishna always said. Ego is there. It is very difficult to totally get rid of ego. But that ego has to be transformed into a better type of ego. So unripe ego is the selfish ego. Ripe ego is the unselfish ego. Ripe ego, though pride is bad, but to feel I am a servant of God, I am a servant of Sri Ramakrishna. So I am so fortunate to be given this attitude. I met Swami in San Francisco. He's old, quite sick, and he has a lot of problems, heart problems and cancer problems. But his face is glowing. And they had one drama by children on Saint Francis of Assisi, and in the pamphlet they had given the picture of Saint Francis, that common painted picture. I was looking at the picture of that Saint Francis and was seeing his eyes, and then I remembered the eye of this monk, Swami Prabhupada. And when we met him and talked to him, what he said, I am so fortunate to be chosen by Sri Ramakrishna to work for him. That is the right ego. I am working for Sri Ramakrishna, but I am so fortunate to be chosen. How many of the people of this whole world are chosen to serve and dedicate themselves for him? So I have been what I have. It's not that I have some great qualities, but I was picked up, I was chosen by His mercy, by His grace. So this type of attitude, I'm so fortunate. So he says from his example, I'm so fortunate to be given this opportunity to serve him. I had a fantastic life. So happy to have lived this life of service for the human beings, service of preaching service, of organizing wonderful monk. No ego. Many of you have seen here. Such a wonderful monk. Monks all are great, but this Swami was so good. When I came here first, he came here, and he was invited to for the memorial of Swami Kripamayananda. And he was going up. Many devotees had come, and the devotees were going, and Swami started going up, and he said, Kripamayananda, you see so many devotees coming. They are the assets of the center. They are the real things that the center makes alive. Real glory of the center are the congregation, are the devotees who come, find joy, render their service, make this center a living embodiment of place of worship. That was his attitude. And with that he worked. He had to come after a great, very erudite monk, Swami Ashokananda. He was so very special and charming and very unique type of capability he had. Great orator, great organizer. He made 3 or 4 centers. Got land, big land was their retreat land in Olima, and around that was many others also had the retreat centers, forest, the retreat centers. But government decided to take away all the property to make it a reserve forest. Swami Ashokananda was also given notice. He wrote something, and all others' property were taken by the government. He was waived. He was a Hindu in the nation which mostly practices Christianity. And what was divine power in him? And everybody was very surprised. How could he be just not taken? Why could he be waived? He had some very extraordinary powers, there is no doubt, Swami Ashokananda. And after that came Swami Prabodhananda, simple, good, very large-hearted person, and worked so nicely. That is the attitude of service. I am so fortunate to be chosen by God, by Sri Ramakrishna, to serve him. So that is the attitude of right ego. That will finally lead to self-abnegation. Finally, our ego has to be just made very small. We should live in such a way we forget ourselves. We totally forget ourselves that I need something. That goes away. You only think about the others. Nothing what someone does bad to you. Nothing what someone does good to you. You only think for others. Even someone did good to you, forget that. That also may make you very obliged. That is one difficulty of accepting the goodness or some help from others. If you start having obligation, then it is a binding. Obligation is not a spiritual thing. I have to look after that. Someone comes, visits me, and I invited them, then that person invites you. You have to go there. You might have some work, but you are as compelled. You have to reciprocate that. You are obliged to go. So this obligation is also not good for spirituality. You have to have freedom. That is very extreme case I am saying, but the person of spiritual attainment, what will he do? Will he not attend when he is invited again, reciprocate? He or she will certainly reciprocate. It is a joy to meet the devotees of God, joy to meet the human beings who are veritable manifestation of God. But if there is some urgent work, other urgent work, he or she will not be afraid or scared to call that person. You see, I cannot go to your place because I have another work. If that person becomes angry, misunderstands, doesn't matter. He is or she is pure at heart, and there is nothing that he did or she didn't want to go. So there is no obligation and binding. That has to be eschewed. So whoever does bad to us, you don't care. You don't think for yourself at all. You have started thinking more and more about others. You have become other-centered, from self-centered to other-centered. How that person was suffering. I think that's how the people could know. We have very wonderful example of Bharat Maharaj. Yes, for a long time he was manager of Belur Math. He was a disciple of Holy Mother Sarada Devi. He was not seen much visiting the Belur Math temple, not meditating for a long time. Only on Kali Puja night he used to go and sit for whole night. That was his ritualistic worship. Whole night he would sit on one place. That was his thing. But he had so much of love for the people. Whenever some devotees came, after 3 years, 4 years, he used to ask, "Oh, where is your daughter now? She was little tiny, she must be in grade 9 now," and with a name. "And what about your son? Is he now working? What is his job? He was working in that company." To many persons he used to talk like that. Everyone was surprised how this Swami in this old age can think of our family so much, how he remembers so much. It was not remembering in that way. It was because of his other-centeredness. He always thought of the welfare of others. His thought was for the good of all the devotees. And then, when he met someone, automatically it came. He was never self-centered. He didn't think for anything for himself. He always thought of others. That is self-abnegation, close to just crushing the ego. No I is there. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, "I don't find any I in me. All inside is Mother. All inside is Mother Kali." That was Sri Ramakrishna saying. And this Swami is great lovers of devotees, great lovers of mankind. Swami Kripamayananda, Swami Abhayananda, Bharat Maharaj Abhayananda, in our times I have seen. And what about Swami Vivekananda and Swami Brahmananda? We don't know, we just read and it gives a thrill to our just body. So this type of thing finally leads to the realization of Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma. So first, the good behavior, and trying to make other person happy, then trying to serve God in others, then finally comes less of ego getting lesser and lesser, pride just diminishing, finishing, and then finally comes God coming. Everything seems to be God. You even forget that there is divine spirit in that person. That person himself becomes image of God. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. Then that Rishi said, Tvam Stri, Tvam Pumanasi, Tvam Kumara Uttava Kumari. He said, "Oh Lord, I was searching you, I was meditating you. When I opened eyes, I find that this woman are thou, that man is thou, and this girl is you, and that boy is you, that old man is you yourself. So everything is nothing but God." That is the final emancipation, liberation, reaching goal, realizing God, realizing Brahman, is that attitude when we can feel everyone as God, we can treat everyone as God. Like Nag Mahashaya. He could see God in everything. When he came to Holy Mother, he would just shake. He literally vibrated his body that he is in front of Goddess. That was so powerful. He could understand the purity of Holy Mother, the divinity of Holy Mother. Holy Mother gave something to eat to him, and he ate everything. Even the leaf plate that was given, he ate up. After that, Holy Mother said, "Don't give prasad to him on the leaf plate. Give him some steel plates, some brass plates." That was still was not there that time. Still is one. So give him some brass plates so that he doesn't eat. So was his emotion, so was his moving in the divinity, that he felt everything is prasad, everything is God. That was the stage of Nag Mahashaya. The action of all prophets and incarnations of God are examples of service. Whatever they did is nothing but service of the human, service of the mankind. Whatever they did. Sri Ramakrishna, though he used to talk about God, used to remove the difficulties of others, used to inspire them, used to make them feel that they are becoming pure. That was one the preacher does, that the holy man does. You come in the aura of holy man, you feel yourself, you are different. That the inspiration comes, will to live comes. Many persons came there just to commit suicide, and they felt that life is worth, transform the life. That positiveness in life comes. That sort of comes in the life of this great person. But Sri Ramakrishna's life, we find example of service to human beings, as the service is being said. He went to Deoghar on the way to Varanasi, to pilgrimage of Benares, very holy place of Hindus, one of the most holy place of the Hindus. On the way, they had got down at Deoghar, where is the temple of Vaidyanath, Shiva temple. And they went in the village, big, huge entourage was there. And he found people to be very poor, unfed, unbathed, extremely poor. He said to the leader of the team, that you feed them one day. They are suffering so much. And give cloth, a piece of cloth to everyone, a cloth, blanket to everyone. And give some oil to take bath. I want to see them fresh. The leader said, Mathura Babu said, Father, he used to tell him, Father, he was his guru, he used to see him as guru at each time. How can that be? We are on the way of a pilgrimage and it's a whole village. It is not one person that I can serve like that. It's almost impossible to do that on the way when we are on the way to pilgrimage. So Sri Ramakrishna sat down on the ground and said, I am not going to get up. You move forward to your Kashi. I am here. Unless you feed all of them and give blanket to all of them, I am not moving from this place. And that place was quite far from Calcutta, his house. What he could do? He had to send someone back to Calcutta and bring again the things, food and cloth and everything. It was served them, they were fed, they got some oil to bath, they seemed fresh. Then Sri Ramakrishna was very happy and satisfied. Practical example of service of human beings that Sri Ramakrishna showed. Holy Mother always showed this love for humanity. Always. She never made distinction, and her attitude was always serving the others, making them feel that they belong to her. She felt that everyone belonged to her. Once one robber used to come. He used to do robbery, literally. He used to go to jail, and freed from jail, he used to come to Holy Mother. And then Holy Mother, how did he treat? Holy Mother said, sit down. How are you today? Take some food. And offered some food, started talking with him. And then after he left, she was cleaning the place. And Brahmin, widow, cleaning the place of some robber. Someone said, what are you doing this? You are cleaning the place of where that robber sat? She said, who is robber? He is my son. That robber, Amjad, is my son, as Sharat is my son. There is no distinction. All are equally lovable. All are equally, I am equally mother to all. That type of service, that type of love which one has, feels everyone as belonging to himself or herself, then the real service comes. You don't have to think much. That love will make all your impurities of heart gone, and real service starts with the power of that love. Swami Vivekananda's life was full of service, and he said, until one dog is also fed, remains unfed, my whole religion is to feed that dog. What is there in metaphysics and thinking and meditation? It should be the first. There is no religion in empty stomach. You have to serve, give food to the people, and then preach religion. Then they can understand. First, worship of a God is if the person is hungry, you have to feed them with food. That is the first beginning of worship of God in front of you. So whatever a person needs, if we have capacity to give, offer that, and that is the service. Ramakrishna Mission Swami Vivekananda established, as we heard, with the motto of Atmano Mokshartham Jagatitaya Cha. It is a monastic organization where all people will come together and work for their own liberation. Atmano Mokshartham, that is the goal. We want to be free from ignorance, from bondage of samsara. But how to do that? He has said that how to do that. Jagat Hitaya Cha. You can do that only by doing good to the world, good to the others. The first one has to be achieved by second one. First one is the goal, second one is the means. There is no other means. That mean has to be coupled with the goal. Goal trying to have Atmano Mokshartham with other practices of spirituality? No Ramakrishna Mission. Ramakrishna Mission has to work for the good of others. Seva is integral of the Ramakrishna Mission. Renunciation has to be coupled with service. Renunciation and service. Without service, you will not be perfectly a renouncer. So, that is the Seva Bhav. And how they did Seva is one example often quoted is about our center in Haridwar. It's called Kankhal Center, where Swami Vivekananda himself sent one of his disciples, Kalyanananda. He said, Kalyan, go to Haridwar and forget Bengal. Haridwar is in another province where people speak another language, people eat another food. He said, forget Bengal, forget that you are Bengali. You become a part of that place and serve them. And he served, that Swami served. He didn't build temple. The hospital was his temple. The sick persons were his God. And he served them like one worships God in temple. That was Swami Kalyanananda. He had his brother disciple, another disciple of Swami Vivekananda, Swami Nischalananda. He was born a Marathi. And he served so much by the order of his Guru that he used to travel every day from Haridwar to Rishikesh, about I think 10-12 miles. Morning he goes, evening he comes, takes some medicine and serves them. And here they used to serve patients all ways, means whatever is to be done, cleaning their fields, bed, making bed, and doing all sorts of nursing. And where were the nurse? Everything these monks used to do there. Some monks there, the local monks, because Haridwar is a place where monastics of many different orders live there. It's a holy place. So they said that they are the sweeper monks. They only know cleaning of the people. So they are not real monks, they said. But undaunted by their sayings, the monks of this Ramakrishna mission, disciples of Swami Vivekananda, they went on working without any search for recognition. And later the recognition came. So that was the attitude of service, treating all as equality. In Kerala we had another problem. Kerala there is a lot of caste differentiation practiced. So after the puja was done, we asked all the devotees to sit in one place and then eat the food, prasad. Some higher caste devotees said, how can we sit with lower caste people? There was so much of caste practicing there. Our monks, they said, we can. The higher caste people were used to come to the ashram, they used to help. But when they said, we cannot sit with other caste, they said, we cannot help. Sri Ramakrishna said, there is no caste distinction among the devotees. Devotees themselves are a caste by themselves. What caste you are? Are you a Brahmin or Shudra? No, we are devotees caste. There is one caste, so you all have to do. It was a challenge, but that challenge was overcome. They relented, they persisted that all human beings were treated equally when they come to temple. And that came by the teachings of Vedanta, that every soul is divine. It doesn't make any distinction. So every soul is divine, so treat every soul as divine. So that becomes the service. When we start, we can love everyone as our own fellow human being, and deeper still, the veritable manifestation of God. With that feeling, real service comes, and with the real service, purity of heart comes, and with the purity of heart comes the emergence of divinity, which we can feel. Now the divinity is latent, sleeping, not woke up, it's not awakened. With that service, with the divinity of our heart, we'll wake up and we'll have realization.